Hello, I'm going to be talking to you about strip cutting. This video is specifically for week 3 of the Hurry Home quilt block, which is this cute little block for Rue Sew Along. But there is information that might be helpful for other projects, so stick around. So we are sewing 35 Hurry Home blocks so that we can make quilt sandwiches and then cut them out and then sew them into a Rue coat. So to do that, we've provided a really detailed cut list that looks like this. There are some highlighted parts for things that you might need to cut, not cut based on your size, so hold off on cutting those until you know if you need them or not, which you'll know when you start piecing everything together and you can see it next to your pattern pieces. But these are the components. Then we have the cutting instructions and a layout so you can see where each of these parts go and visualize it a little bit better. And then also something else to note is that in the pattern, or the Hurry Home pattern, the mini quilt block comes out to be 4.5 by 5 inches, but for this sew along, we actually need the block to be 5 by 5 inches. So in the cut list, we have something called house strips, which is just a narrow little strip you're going to sew along the top of the block to make it 5 by 5 inches. I'm going to be using a patterned background, this like micro gingham. So I've actually decided it would look better if I just extended the top by 1/2 inch to make it 5 by 5. So mine is going to be a tiny bit different. You could do either way. You just have to make note of it in your cut list, which way you're going to go. So the materials I have are baggies, little Ziploc baggies for my pieces. I have larger ones for larger pieces. I printed out the templates. If you're using or gonna make a scrappy quilt block, I would recommend using the templates to cut. But if your houses are all gonna be the same or you're making many of similar colored houses, I would recommend strip cutting instead because it's much more precise and it's much faster. But the templates are really good for scraps if you have small pieces of fabric and you just gotta fit them out. But I printed these out because I'm going to be using them as labels. So each of my little Ziploc baggies is going to have the pattern piece that it belongs to so that I can really quickly see them when I'm piecing it all together. I have my fabric. I will be cutting my house fabric on this video, so the little red house. I have a quilting ruler with some masking tape that is going to help me visualize the different widths of strips I'm cutting. And then I also have my trusty rotary cutter, which I just popped a new blade in. So it's nice and fresh and going to cut really well for me. Okay, so first thing to know is WOF in all caps stands for width of fabric. That is selvage to selvage, and with most quilting cottons, that'll be around 44 to 45 inches. That's how they're sold. The selvage is this fluffy little thready part on the end. So the width of fabric is from here to here, and so I'm going to be cutting, we already know the length because it's pretty standard. And the measurements are the widths of the strips that I'm going to cut. Okay, so I'm all set up here. I have my fabric. My selvage is aligned to one of my straight lines on my cutting mat. I have my little baggies with all my bee pattern pieces because that is the house fabric, and I will be cutting these out. And I first need to cut 4 3-inch strips, and then I'm going to cut 5 2-inch strips. After I have my strips, then I'm going to subcut each of those strips into smaller pieces and then put them into the correct baggie. So first I need to look at the bottom right here and make sure that everything's on grain. Cutting precisely is so important because it will make all of your piecing so much easier, and if you have sloppy cutting, it's just going to be a nightmare and a headache moving forward. So this is the part that's like really crucial to get correct. And don't be afraid of overcutting some pieces because you will make some little mistakes, and that's totally fine, but you can always get rid of the ones that are a little wonky as you're piecing together if it's just not working for you. So always cut away from yourself and hold your ruler as you go along. I get rid of this, so now it's perfect. Then I'm going to align my ruler, let's see, 3 inches, so this is half, so I actually have to fix this. I'm gonna do it here. So 1, 2, 3. Ta-da! And this just helps me like very quickly visually see where I need to line things up, so I'm not making silly mistakes. I'm going to line my ruler up here, make sure it's nice and straight. And then again, double check. I need 3 inches, 1, 2, 3, and I need 4 of these. So 1. Oops, see, I already messed up a little bit. This is why. No big deal. I'm just gonna true this a little bit to make sure the rest of my strips aren't wonky. Just line it up. And it's only slightly off, but I would rather lose a tiny bit of fabric here and make sure everything is very nicely lined up, and continue to cut wonky strips and regret it later. Okay, so I have my 1 strip. I need 3 more. Carefully lining it up. Okay, I have my strips. Okay, and now I have it all lined up, so I'm just going to go ahead and cut 70, I think, right? Yeah, 70 1¼ by 3 inch pieces for B2. Sometimes what I like to do is divide the width of fabric by what I'm cutting, so 1¼ inch, and figure out how many per strip. So instead of like counting every little piece, I just know how many I'll have per strip, and I can just kind of like zoom through a strip without having to like count. Okay, so I have 70 B2 pieces. I checked it off my list. I ended up doing the math, and there are about 36 1¼ inch pieces in each of my strips. So I cut up 2 essentially to get a little more than 70. And now I have 2 3 inch width of fabric strips left, and I'm going to cut 70 1 inch by 3 inch pieces. And then I'll just continue down the list, checking off as I go, bagging and labeling appropriately, putting them all in one place so that next step is ready to assemble my pieces. So we will see you for week 4, when we'll give you more information on assembly and some tips on that and how to make it as painless as possible.